What's going on, guys? Alex here, Nickens Lawn and Landscape, doing another install today. We just pulled up here on location. I'm gonna hurry up and unload everything, and then I'll show you what we got going on. All right, so we just got everything unloaded. Let's walk over here and see what we got going on. First thing I want to point out, as always, get everything marked. You never know. These ones are in the middle of the yard. So we're clear up along the house where we're going. One thing I really want to get in the habit of doing, and we don't always do this, usually we will get the project started and then go get the materials, not as we need them, but we'll try to go one time during the project to get everything. I want to get in the habit of getting everything before we even start. So I've got the boulders there. I've got all the plants there, not all the plants, most of the plants there. Nick's right now running, he hasn't even been here yet. He's running to grab a sod cutter and he's grabbing some daylilies. So that's, other than that, we got everything we need. They didn't have the daylilies where I bought the other plants, so we had to go somewhere else and get those. And then we got the edging right here. And this edging, matches what they got going on the house. So they've got, you know, little pieces here and there in the brick, and that's going to be lining the landscape and matches what they got going on up there. And that brings me to a good point I want to talk about. A lot of people ask, how do you know what material to go with, or how do you know what edging to use, or what boulders to use, or whatever? You just got to judge the house. I mean, really, once you start looking into it and you know your options, really quickly when you pull up to a property, you can kind of narrow it down to 4 or 5. But like this one over here, that house right there, I would not use the edging that I'm using on this house. That house has tan up there on the siding. It's got kind of a tan garage door and tan trim, so I would use a tan edging, and that's exactly what they have. They have tan 4x8 pavers. This house right here, you might use something similar to what I'm using over here because they got that stone. But again, they got the tan, so you could use, you know, a tan edging. You could use a tan edging here too, really. I mean, you could use a rose blend here, but this I thought was the best option because of what they got going on in the brick. It matches perfectly, so that's what I wanted to do. This edging is a little bit more expensive than like a 4x8 paver. It's actually quite a bit more expensive, but these are quicker to lay too than 4x8 pavers, so really in the long run it's not that much more expensive, and I think it's going to blend with the house much better. And for the boulders, we did the same thing. These are the limestone boulders, which match the edging and match the brick in the house. The thing about boulders, set them on the ground and you're done. Zero maintenance. I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder. And they wanted to go low maintenance on the plants, and they didn't want any shrubs. They want stuff that they can cut down and just handle that way. So we got some variegated liriope here, a few variegated hostas there, and then we got this here, which is purple. It's like purple on the top and green. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's called switchgrass. And this was about the only thing I could find she wanted. You can see in that picture it's much more purple than it looks right now, and it's actually more purple in real life than it looks in this camera. But that's the only thing I could find to match what she wanted, and she wanted some kind of low growing purple grass, and this one at max height gets 36 inches and max width is 24 inches, so this one stays pretty small. And as all other grasses, you can divide this, so if it does get too big, they can always cut some out, or they can hire me to come over and cut some out. And we're going to be using a multicolor rock. We have not picked that up yet. We do have to run and get that. We had the dump truck was full, so we couldn't put it in there, but we will be going to get that later on. It's just a standard multicolor medium, about that big or so, something like that. Nothing crazy. And then for our weed barrier, I guess this is the only material that we have yet to talk about. We use a commercial grade weed fabric that's got marks on it, or lines on it, which is actually really nice. You see those yellow lines? So when you run it across something flat, instead of having to measure out for all your plants, which is what we used to do, you don't have to do that really with these. I mean, you have to measure maybe a little bit of the separation, but you don't have to measure off the wall, so it does save time, and there's no weeds coming through that stuff. So the way I see it, if you're going to spend all this money and do all this work, you might as well spend the initial money and get the good weed fabric, if you don't get a good weed fabric, you're gonna pay for it later on. So you might as well spend the money and get it. That 6-foot roll is like $300, and the 4-foot rolls I want to say are $250 or so, and then the 3-foot roll is like $175, I think. So it is expensive, but like I said, if you're spending all this money, the rock's expensive, the plants are expensive, and the labor's obviously expensive. So don't cut corners there. That's the last place you want to cut a corner. All right, Nick's back. We got the lilies, and we got the sod cutter. Rented that from the rental place 10 miles up the road or whatever. Closest rental place, let's put it that way. Let's get this sod ripped out. So since there's no obvious barriers out here, we got to paint some lines and make sure we cut the right area. Got our markings down that side of the house at 4.5 feet. And that puts us right in front of the air conditioner and makes the air conditioner part of the bed so he doesn't have to weed eat around that. We're gonna finish this part, then we're gonna blow everything off, then we'll do all the weed barrier, and then we'll run. All right guys, so we ran the sod cutter down here. It's pretty hard to keep a perfect line with the sod cutter. We got close. We're a couple inches off in a few places, but you can see the string line running down there. So we're gonna take the Wolverine shovels, these blue guys, cut that out, make that perfectly straight, and then in goes the weed barrier. You want the bad news first or the good news? All right, we'll start with the bad news. The bad news is it's raining. And the good news is it's raining. So we really needed some rain. It's super, super, super dry here. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know how crappy it is here. So we definitely need the rain. It just came at a bad time. We just got all the sod tore out. So we got dirt sitting there. We got all the excess dirt in the truck and sod in the truck. We got that dumped, so we got rid of that, which is a good thing. But now we've got the layout sitting there. You know, everything's cut out like it's supposed to be, but we didn't get the weed barrier down yet. So now it's just muddy. So it's still sprinkling a little bit. The radar shows more coming later. So what we're gonna do is Nick went to take the sod cutter back. I'm going to grab a little bit of crushed base for the edging. So we're gonna hope to do this and maybe eat some lunch and then be able to get back over there and at least get that weed barrier down today. It is 1 o'clock right now. So hopefully, like I said, we'll be able to do a couple of things here that we need to do that are part of the project and let things dry up a little bit, at least let that water run off that was sitting in the bed. And then we'll kind of just, you know, start laying the weed barrier and use that to kind of lean on and be on instead of messing around in the mud. So hopefully it still works out. It hasn't rained enough yet to make it to where we can't work, but if it continues to rain, I don't want to be out there, you know, wet all day, and I don't want my tools to be out there wet all day. So we got everything cleaned up and put under the overhang on the back of the house, so all the tools should stay dry. But it is what it is. Like I said, we do need the rain, so I'm not mad about it, but it just came at a bad time. I wish it could have waited like another hour and a half, and it's starting to pick up again. You could probably hear it here. So yeah, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. You gotta roll with the punches. It's part of being in this industry. I mean, it is what it is. Can't be mad about it, but like I said, it is a good thing. So I'm gonna take it as a positive, glass half full kind of guy. And if we can't work, or if we can't do any more of this project today, I'll find something else to do. So we're gonna grab this rock here real quick, grab a bite to eat, and then we'll be back over there, and I'll flip this camera back on and show you guys what we got going on, and hopefully this rain will get out of here and we can pick right back up where we left off. All right, so the rain slowed up. We were able to get back here and start laying down some weed barrier. We got that going. But it is still raining a little bit, so we haven't filmed anything yet because we don't want the camera to get wet. It is getting wet a little bit right now. You can't see much. It's not raining too hard, but it is raining. All right, so we got all the weed barrier down. We're gonna start on the edging now. Nick's over at the truck, loading up some base for the edging. And we're gonna start right there. Now, as far as the weed mat goes, I know I didn't touch on that too much, but it's fairly simple. All you got to do is cover the area you're working with. Pins are cheap. Use a lot of pins. Don't leave big gaps, and make sure that the weed barrier, if this is your edge, and say you got like a 2-inch drop here, and that's where you're going to tuck your rock up against the sidewalk, make sure that your weed barrier isn't ramping up this at all, because then you'll put your rock and you're still going to see that weed barrier. Make sure it's perfectly flush with the dirt down there, and that way when you put your rock, it 100% covers that weed barrier. The last thing you want is weed barrier poking up whenever you're finished. So take your time, make sure your lines are straight, and use a lot of pins. Alright guys, so like I said, these are called the Eden tumbled edging. We like laying these because not only do they look really good whenever we're finished, but they are somewhat quicker to lay, and they're designed so they don't look perfect. So there is a little variation as you go down, and as you guys know, anybody who installs edging, it's gonna move unless you mortar it in or something, or unless you do like a retaining wall style block and level it, it's gonna move. So with these, the way they're designed, it makes it look a lot better for a lot longer because it allows for them to move a little bit and they still look great. And here we got our 4-pound mallet, and what we do, just take your hand, go across here, flatten it out the best you can, make sure there's no humps, set your block in, And just hit it a few times until it seems to be level, just like you would a retaining wall block, but we don't take a level and set it on top of these. We just make sure that it's bedded in there real good, and on to the next. So we've got most of the plants staged.
Bonus.
And all of the edging done. We don't have the plants exactly where they're set, but they're all in about the right area, so we will come back tomorrow and knock this one out. Alright guys, so we're here day 2 of the landscape install. Yesterday we got some rain, so it kind of screwed some things up. Normally this is a project we could probably do in a long day. We just weren't able to yesterday. We had too many variables. But anyway, we got all the weed barrier done yesterday, and we got all the edging done. So now it's time to get the plants in the ground. So when it comes time to laying out all the plants, now we just have them roughly set in where we know they're going to go. And we made sure to refer back to our drawing and make sure we have everything in the correct place. But we have everything in roughly now. Now it's time to take a tape measure and measure everything off. Design this landscape, nothing's set in stone. We have to get the plants in here and see how everything looks before we can measure everything exactly. So we know what's going in what area, we just don't know exactly where it's going. So in this case, we went 3 foot off the house for these grasses to give them plenty of room. We went about 3 foot off the porch, and then for those front ones, we just made even gaps and tried to span that gap the best we could. So once you've got all your plants laid out and measured and set where they need to be, it's time to cut the weed fabric. And what you're going to need for that is a good pocket knife or box cutter, and all you're going to do is cut an X in the weed barrier, and you're going to fold it back and under like this. That leaves you your opening. You can dig without anything getting in your way, and when you're done, you can fold all this back up as close to the plant as you can. Alright guys, when you're planting your plants, make sure you dig the holes big enough that you can get some compost around the sides. It's a very crucial part for the longevity of the plants, especially if you're not working with good topsoil, which most of the time you're not. You're usually working with clay or something else that just doesn't work good for the plant. So make sure you dig your holes plenty deep and use a lot of compost. Alright guys, we got all the plants. The only thing we got left to do is the rock. Alright, so we got the rock going in. You see we got it in piles. What we do is have one guy deliver rock. So we got the coal chute on the dump truck there. One guy brings wheelbarrows and dumps them. The other guy spreads it out. And this is how the coal chute works. Simple as that. Pretty nice, huh? Alright guys, that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you were able to learn a little something. I get a lot of questions asking how we do certain aspects of our landscaping. So I wanted to do this video for this install and hopefully answer a lot of those questions at one time. If you got any more questions, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already. Thanks for watching guys. I'll see you in the next one.